You live here?
Yes.
Well, maybe you know what a zombie is.
When a person dies and is buried, it seems there's certain voodoo priests who have the power to bring him back to life.
How horrible.
It's worse than horrible because a zombie has no will of his own. You see them sometimes walking around blindly with dead eyes, following orders, not knowing what they do, not caring.
You mean like Democrats?
Are you or your loved ones suffering from illnesses such as TDS, also known as Trump derangement syndrome? Do you dismiss or deny the current issues facing our country, such as historic inflation, illegal immigration, corporate corruption, World War III escalations, and the chronic disease epidemic? Are you willing to elect someone who was the least popular vice president in modern history, and who offers no policy or vision for America simply because your brain keeps telling you anyone but Trump? If so, you might be struggling from TDS. Introducing independence. Independence allows you the freedom to finally think independently once again. Instead of believing everything you hear from the mainstream media, independence allows for constructive critical thinking.
I used to hear people on the news say things like,
Donald Trump and the movement he has encouraged are a threat to democracy.
And I instantly believed it. With independence, I now realize the media is run by the Democrat elite, who are a corrupt oligarchy that censors free speech, silences political opponents, supports forever wars, and abandons democracy by anointing its candidates.
Independence may not be for everyone. If you enjoy being lied to about your president's cognitive abilities, support Orwellian totalitarianism, or are excited about communist fiscal policy, independence may not be right for you. Common side effects of independence may include an awakening of rational thought, successfully identifying propaganda, freedom of choice, loss of hatred, anti-narcissistic behavior, and love of democracy.
I used to blindly hate whoever my party was running against. I didn't care about facts or policy because I was hopelessly indoctrinated. With independence, I'm much more interested in policies that uphold democracy, and I truly care about the health of our country and its citizens.
Ask your doctor if independence is right for you, and enjoy your freedoms once again.
Enjoy your freedoms once again. That video was put out by Nicole Shanahan and her team. Nicole Shanahan was the running mate of RFK Jr. And it's perfect. It's a perfect video. It talks about these people who are completely nuts upstairs and will do anything, including embracing communism if it means defeating Trump and not even understanding what that even means. And the first clip that you saw was from an old movie with Bob Hope. And I just thought, just imagine this movie that you just saw, that clip was probably from 50 years ago. And 50 years ago, people knew back then that Democrats were walking dead, that they were zombies. They were absolutely nuts. And so what we've seen happen over the last, I'd say 24 hours, is people actually embracing insanity. It's going even further. Earlier today, I watched some of the news shows just so you don't have to. And I just watched them just basically fall over themselves trying to make it look like Kamala Harris had done something well last night, when in reality, we all know that she didn't. These people are absurd.
Screen. So at the beginning, when she's talking about Biden and their record, our screen said, this is called the Chiron, the headline at the bottom, it said, Harris stands by Biden administration economic record. She is making it clear that she will embrace and be a continuation of Biden's economic policy, his record, what they've done. She offered no remorse, no regrets, no introspection about anything they've done. She continued to blame inflation on this fantasy price gouging idea. She had no additional thoughts on the economic situation in the country or what they've done beyond just saying, Joe Biden and I have done a great job. Now, if I were the Trump people, I would be salivating over the idea that that's how they are going to run the race. I don't believe it's tenable. I also thought it was interesting that she didn't take any responsibility at the end for telling the American people that Joe Biden was fine and he was strong. I mean, we all know that's not true. That's why he's out of the race, and she's still standing by the idea that he was fine and he's strong and that he's fine today. Nobody believes that, and I just think at some point, then why isn't he running?
Because he's too old, point blank. Same reason why Donald Trump probably shouldn't be running, because he's too old and out of touch.
I think most Americans know the truth, and when you're running to be president and you're willing to look them in the face and tell them something they know that you know is not true, it does speak
I think
a little
it's
bit
also
to
a
your
question,
character.
Scott, and curious what you think about this, Axe. Will voters care about that part of it, which is kind of backward looking, or do they care about what's next?
I talked about what's going on in Aurora, Colorado, and how the Tres Van Buenos, whatever they are, some gang from Venezuela, has taken over two apartment buildings where they've brought guns in to basically force the residents to pay them basically protection money as they've kicked out the management and have taken over these two apartment buildings. I talked about how a couple of other thugs tried to take out a school bus or two school buses full of kids. Who knows what they had planned for them? The interesting part about all of this is, as you heard, Trump mentioned it. Do you realize two apartment buildings in a blue state of Colorado, two of them, were taken over by gangs, and Kamala Harris has not even mentioned a word about it. Most of the news stations haven't mentioned a word about it. What does that tell you? The fact that she's not even acknowledging that it happens is that she is putting party way over country. She doesn't care what happens to people as long as she can potentially win an election. The Democrat Party doesn't care about people as long as they can win an election and stay in power. They truly have TDS. And in fact, you may want to say they have ADS, American syndrome as well. It is truly deranged what they're doing. They don't care about anything. We've got to win. They've got to stay in power. And if people get hurt or people end up getting kidnapped or what, doesn't matter. We need to get in office. I will say anything. I will do anything. Anything that it takes to get in office. That's what she's doing. She's flip-flopping on all these different policies. She doesn't care. And the worst part about it is a lot, if not most Democrats don't care either. They could care less. I saw somebody, and I mentioned it earlier, a tweet somebody put out, and the actual tweet said, I would rather put up with gangs taking control of apartment complexes than having Donald Trump as president. Those two clips I played to open this completely exemplify that kind of insanity. It's beyond derangement. It is full-blown insanity. Somebody took the time to type on a keyboard or a phone that I'd rather be held captive by Venezuelan gangs than to see Donald Trump as president. I'd rather my family be held captive by armed Venezuelan gangs than see Trump as president. The gaslighting and everything that the media has done has completely worked. It has worked to their benefit. They're not going to stop. They are going to continue, and they don't care. If people are willing to, If people are willing to vote their best away from their best interest, if they are going to say, listen, I don't care what happens as long as Trump's not in the White House, we have no choice but as MAGA supporters to make sure these people are voted into oblivion. It's absolutely insane. I would never put anything above the safety and well-being of my family. Many of you guys have realized my daughter has now joined me. She won't be here tonight, I don't think. And my wife's in the other room. Party doesn't matter. If my wife and my family's safety, that's above everything else. It's Lord, family, and then business. These people are willing to sacrifice people, literally sacrifice people in order to stay in power. That is derangement. That is insanity. In addition, Trump has mentioned it in a number of speeches. There are 300,000 plus kids missing that they brought across the border. They're missing. Nobody knows where they are. You don't hear that on the news whatsoever. You don't hear Kamala Harris address that whatsoever. We're not talking about a little number here. We are talking about 300,000 plus kids that are missing. Just those two things I've told you. The number of tweets that I saw that people said that, and they, because it got echoed, that they would rather have armed Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes instead of seeing Trump get elected, and 300,000 plus kids that nobody can find. Nobody wants to talk about it. It makes your heart swell up when you realize these people, there's no other word for it other than evil. You have to realize at this point, we are fighting good versus evil. They don't care. And that's why a number of times I referred to them as the orcs in Lord of the Rings, because they are zombies. They're soulless zombies. They don't care. Being able to go to a big blue RV and have a baby disposed of is probably the least of what they concerned about. They don't care about that either. Life means nothing. If it meant throwing all of us in some sort of re-education camp, they'd be fine with that. Hey, listen, you guys were Trump supporters. Now we've vanquished him and he's not going to be president, and we've put him in jail and he's in the pokey and basically being whipped 5 times a day. Now we got to come after you. He says it all the time in his speeches. He makes sure you understand that. When he says they're not just coming for him, they're coming for us. He just happens to be in the way. And what I've seen over the last couple of days and weeks says that's absolutely true. If the National Guard has not as of yet been called out in Aurora, Colorado, if they have not gone in and said, listen, we can't take this, make sure this thing is quelled. We don't care. These people aren't citizens. They're newcomers, and they're getting comfortable enough to go ahead and take over apartment complexes, and they've lost 300,000 kids. If they don't care about that, we don't mean anything. I think some people have to swallow that and understand our well-being means absolutely nothing. And you can see the campaign that she's running. The campaign that she's running right now is I'll say anything, I'll do anything, nothing matters, as long as I can somehow convince enough people or stretch enough votes or do enough things, because they'll do anything. In fact, July 13th, we got that confirmed. They will do anything. They will strip RFK Jr. his protection away from him the day he announced that he was supporting Trump. Let's go ahead and rip that away from him. They will do anything. I think more people who think like me and think like you have to really accept the fact that they would have no problem whatsoever if day one in office she says, round up everybody that's a Trump supporter. Go find these people on YouTube. Go search their emails, find out from social media companies and whoever. Go ahead and find out anyone who has said this series of words. We want to know who they are. As I mentioned yesterday, the woman in England who was thinking a prayer, standing on a corner by herself, thinking a prayer, and got arrested. You can follow along what's happening to Elon Musk. Brazil and their insanity, trying to shut him down, and what they did to the guy at Telegram when he got off the plane in France. He's since been released, but they put him in jail. At some point, good Americans have to realize and accept the fact you're in a war. You may not realize at this point, because after you get off watching this video or hearing Trump and go out to dinner with your family and take tomorrow, it's Saturday, and decide you're going to go to a park or whatever, or watch some football as football is rolling out right now. You're going to enjoy the bread and circuses. Going to be 100,000 people in various football stadiums across the country, and all they really care about is what's going on down on the field. And I sit back and go, yeah, I'm going to watch some football if I have time, with everything playing with the family. But I'm not going to lose sight of the fact of every single person in this stadium who screams USA or is, basically supporting a team that doesn't agree with the DEI and everything else, they would have no problem erasing it. They would have no problem saying, you know what? Even though you're not of that persuasion, the monkeypox is doing some stuff, so we're going to have to shut it all down. You're all going to have to go home. There's no football. Ain't going to happen. Don't think if they don't get the opportunity, if they get the opportunity, they won't take it. I'm not being over dramatic. I'm telling you things you can go and verify for yourself. You can go verify that 300,000 plus kids are missing. You can go verify that Aurora, Colorado, a blue state, had 2 apartment complexes taken over by armed Venezuelan gangs. And as of about half an hour ago, they hadn't sent the National Guard in to basically liberate all those people. Why not? What are they waiting for? Why are they doing interviews on television instead of saying, why isn't the governor saying, go in there and get rid of these idiots? You have the firepower. You have the resources. Take them out. Because they don't want to. They don't want to tell you where those 300,000 kids are. God forbid what's happened to these kids. Even though those 300,000 kids may be newcomers themselves, the kids don't deserve it. They had no decision in coming across the border. They had no decision in getting on a plane or the back of a bus or in the trunk of a car and being shipped anywhere. They didn't comply. They were told, go here, get in here, jump in the back of this trunk, shut up, and bye. And so I've been for the last couple of days around my grandkids, and today my granddaughters, we spend a lot of time with them, and I just looked at these 2 young girls, and I just realized if somebody put a hand on them, what I would do. We went to lunch, and it was funny. It was like my wife and I were Rambo. One of my granddaughters had to go to the bathroom. So she went to the bathroom, and, I'm like this, making sure nobody's following her. I'm looking at my wife, and she's like, if she's not out in the next 30 seconds, I'm going in. So my wife walked down the hall. I go, is there a back door? She goes, no, there's no door. So it was one way in, one way out. So we felt we had a good eye on where things were. But you got to watch your kids, man. And then when they're not in your grasp and they're out someplace, you still have to make sure you check in because these people mean evil to children. They have no problem disposing of the ones who haven't been born, and they have no problem doing God knows what with the ones that are born. And there is only one man, as my intro says, there is only one man who basically is standing up and going, what's going on? I am tired of hearing about hearings. Okay, we're going to subpoena this guy and subpoena. No. We're done with that. I'm done with hearings. If people don't stand up and start doing things, we're in trouble. Because even if Trump gets elected, understand these people aren't going to stop. In fact, with 2, 3, 5, 10 million people here that we don't even know who they are, there's no telling what they're going to do. If they're willing to take over apartment complexes before the election, what do you think they're going to be told to do after an election when Kamala Harris gets beat? So those of you who have the ability, you better lock and load. I'm saying it at a great risk of the people upstairs. You better get out there and lock and load. If not, it's on you. It's on you to put your family in that kind of position and not be ready. Because I'm telling you right now, one day those people in Aurora, Colorado woke up, were about to go about their business and couldn't. I know the families put those kids on those school buses in California thinking they were going to go to school and then come home. And people tried to take the school buses. It's not far-fetched. It is not far-fetched.